Hey, welcome back to the Motivational Intelligence Podcast, where we talk to some of the world's most accomplished people about how they motivate themselves and how they motivate others. I'm Sean Johnson, and today we're bringing you a conversation with Ryan Hawley of Lincoln Financial Group. Ryan is one of the most genuinely good-hearted human beings that I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with. And this conversation will certainly reflect that. It's a big focus on servant leadership. So I'll give you just a brief bio about Ryan before we dive in. Ryan is Assistant Vice President, Regional Manager at Lincoln Financial Group. In his role, he oversees distribution of group protection solutions to help provide employees and their families with financial well-being and peace of mind, providing benefits when they need them most. His team of senior account executives are dedicated to customer retention and expanding Lincoln Financial Group presence with employer groups of all sizes. His mission is simple: to make a meaningful impact in the lives of others. And we'll talk more about that. We ask him about that. He's got some cool little coins that he actually carries around. Ryan graduated from Hawthorne College of Business at Western Michigan University, and he lives in Charlotte, North Carolina with his wife Holly and daughter Grace. They enjoy skiing, water, and snow, golfing, and hiking together. So this is a really great episode for you. Again, Ryan is just such a genuinely good human being that I think that'll come through in this conversation. So until next time, please enjoy this episode of the Motivational Intelligence Podcast.
The Motivational Intelligence Podcast is produced by the team at Too Logical. Too Logical is an international corporate training firm and the world's leading expert in motivational intelligence, which is the ability to understand, manage, and change the motives people have. Too Logical offers over 30 different keynotes, workshops, and full training courses to small, medium, and large Fortune 500 companies in 53 countries, a lot of which you're probably familiar with: Pfizer, Bank of America, GE, Constellation Brands, P&G, and more. All solutions are completely customized, and the feedback from these sessions will blow your mind. If you have any training or speaking needs or just want to say hey, head over to toological.com.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast today. We've got a very, very neat interview today on the Motivational Intelligence Podcast. Through our journey in life, we all meet many, many people, and every now and again, you meet somebody who really stands out, and it's, many times for a lot of different purposes. But what I find the real special ones are the people who they just seem to operate on a different plane than other people do. They seem to get it a little bit more. They move with maybe a little bit more introspection and a greater sense of purpose. And today's guest is one of those people. His name is Ryan Hawley. I first met Ryan in the fall of 2018 when we were launching a leadership initiative with Lincoln Financial. And as I've gotten to know him, what I've also come to realize is that Ryan is one of the strongest servant leaders of anybody that I've met. And as such, he really has built a tremendous track record of success. And shortly after he and I met, he actually shared with me a culture statement that he had put together for his team. And I think it, in so many regards, really tells you a ton about who he is as an individual and the type of leader that he is and why he's built the success that he has. So I want to share that with everybody as we're kicking off. So the culture statement starts off with, "We are driven by," and then it says, "our non-negotiables." I love just that, non-negotiables. And number one was integrity. Number two is urgency. The number three non-negotiable is ownership. And the number four non-negotiable is caring professionalism. And then he goes on to talk about the common purpose of the team, which is making a meaningful impact in the lives of others through selfless service. So I think that pretty well profiles our guest today. So Ryan, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for that introduction.
Ryan, so I wanted to kick things off. One of the things, is you and I haven't gotten a chance to talk a ton before this, but Dave kind of won't stop talking about you. So, one of the things that I've been impressed by from, everything that Dave has had to say about you is that, you've really developed a high level of motivational intelligence. You have a high level and a high ability to motivate yourselves and to motivate other people, but you do it in a way that I think is different than the way a lot of people think about it in your kind of servant leadership model and being very introspective. So I wanted to kind of kick things off by, kind of taking us back and maybe going to your childhood to talk about what kind of shaped you growing up, who, maybe talk about your family and the influence that had on you and your mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I definitely grew up with an incredible support system and family system. I grew up in an upper middle class family in Michigan. It was in a town called the Plymouth Canton area that's between Detroit, Michigan, and Ann Arbor. I was raised both my mom and dad, and I am the middle child, so I have an older sister and then a younger brother. And I would say that growing up, we were definitely, my parents kind of honored a lot of the traditions and values that were instilled in them and that were brought down, through from their parents. So definitely lots of rich values and, rooted in integrity. A lot of these statements that you talked about that were there, a lot of things rooted in integrity, hard work, respect for others. And I grew up sort of watching a lot of examples around me, whether it be my grandparents, whether it be my parents, whether it be other leaders in that they surrounded themselves with, that sort of instilled that. And as I reflect now today, and think about what shaped me, a lot of those folks around me instilled a lot of those things that, I didn't even, you don't realize until you get later on in life that those were kind of seeds that were planted by incredible people, at such a young age.
So were those things, integrity, respect for others, working hard, were those things that, how did they instill those things in you? Was it something that they talked about, something they said? Was it, leadership by example, kind of a combination of those things?
A lot of leadership by example. I mean, I'll take, hard work. My father helped to run a manufacturing company for my entire life. He actually went to college. Pretty much the joke is that he graduated on a Friday and started to go work for a company that he was at on a Monday, and he was there for his entire career. But I watched him work tirelessly at his job. He was very, very dedicated. But I also had an opportunity when I went to school, not to fast forward the story, but I interned there at the place that he worked at. And I witnessed and experienced the way that he interacted with people, the way that people talked about him, and just the way that he carried himself. It really instilled those values in me because of the example that he had set and the example that I had experienced and witnessed.
Yeah. So I think Dave mentioned might be a cool story there. So it was Detroit Diesel was the company, right?
It was Detroit Diesel. It was a General Motors business that was sold to Roger Penske. And Roger Penske, for those that don't know him, I encourage the listeners to take a look at some of his background and his history. But just an incredible leader, one that instilled. He had a saying when you walked into. It was a very large. They made diesel engines for their signature product was they call it the Series 60, which is an on-highway truck engine that still to this day is made there in Detroit. A lot of the semi trucks that you see on the road today, they have that one of their engines in it. But there was a sign when you went into the facility in the entrance, and it said effort equals results. And that was something that my father lived by, something that was instilled, and we talked about around, as a family, is that nothing is given to you, that you have to put forth effort, you have to prepare, you have to work hard in order to accomplish great things.
Yeah, and was there some sort of deal with college and interning there? Can you tell that story?
Yeah. So, I went to school. I went to went to Western Michigan University where my father went. And there was sort of this underwriting rule that he would help pay for college. I had to maintain certain grades, and I had to take an internship really of his choosing. So I wasn't able to spend time goofing off over the summer. I was in there really learning some very valuable lessons of, working hard, of working with lots of different people, learn to build relationships from, folks from all different walks of life. I learned what I wanted to do. I learned some things what I didn't want to do as well. It was an incredible experience.
What a great thing to have too, as a college student too. You think about so many kids, they journey through school, and I was actually listening to Tim Ferriss's podcast, the one he just released, and Brene Brown, and she was talking about sending her daughter to school and saying, if you only take classes that you want to take, that you think are in the vein of what you want to do in life, she goes, I'm not paying for school. She goes, the most valuable thing you'll learn in college is not what you want to do, but what you don't want to do. Yeah. And so what a wonderful experience to have that while you were going through college rather than afterwards.
When I reflect back on it, I really, and especially going through some of the training that David, that you came in and did with us at Lincoln Financial, was, you really start to reflect and think back on these different parts of your journey throughout your life. And that was one. And I think about the belief system that a lot of folks had that I believe, shaped a lot of their thinking and shaped the way that, the decisions that they made every single day. And it was a phenomenal experience. That was just, one lesson, that I learned, was being in that environment, having the opportunity to do both work out on the factory floor. I also had an opportunity to work in what was, you definitely had kind of a blue collar culture, and then you had kind of the white collar culture within. This is a facility with, over 1,000 people that work there. There's about 1.2 million square feet under roof, kind of a city, if you will, under roof. And I had an opportunity, to do an IT project. And so, again, interacting with a lot of different people to try and accomplish things that, I was just an intern. They didn't need to listen to me. So I had to form some skills at a pretty early age of how to get folks to buy into what it is that you were trying to accomplish in an environment that, not necessarily was conducive to that. So
what were some of the ways that, you're coming in, you're an intern? I would imagine you probably, as a college kid, it's hard to get people who are, full-time employees there, but I would imagine you had to get some sort of buy-in from them on a lot of these projects. How did you go about, kind of getting them to buy in and do what you needed them to do for that project?
It was difficult because, again, you didn't really have any influence. You had to, a lot of times, just get to know the person, had to get to know what motivated them, what they were interested in, tried to help to explain what it is that you were trying to accomplish and how that them being a part of what you were trying to accomplish was going to benefit them, and try and show some of the value, which is, I think at the core of everything, if you can show value to someone so I tried to look for ways as to what we were trying to accomplish was going to maybe make their job a little bit easier, or take something that they didn't enjoy doing, try and find a way in which that was going to make an improvement to their day-to-day job. a lot of them looked at me and even said to me at times, "You're just a kid, you're going to leave after the summer. I've been here for 20 years or however long they'd been there, and that this was their life, and don't mess with it," kind of was a lot of their feedback to me. But again, it was a phenomenal experience, and I'm very grateful to have had it. It's shaped who I am today.
And so you said your dad, it was kind of the internship of your dad's choosing. Was it, one internship within Detroit Diesel, or were you doing kind of different jobs, every summer, or was he moving you around to a lot of different things?
No, each summer. So I did it over several summers, and they were different jobs that I actually had to apply for, had to be accepted into the internship program, and then assigned into different projects essentially for the summer. So they had a formal internship program. So it was a little bit different
out there,
Yeah.
Got to earn your stripes.
Another kind of getting back to some of the just sort of leadership and seeing, really my father's been a tremendous mentor to me. Another thing that I saw was, so he ran big part of he ran the engineering department. And I remember they used to go to Purdue to do a lot of recruiting. There's great engineers out of Purdue University because they grow up in these rural areas and grow up on farms and are around a lot of the equipment that they're making there, and they just make phenomenal engineers. And so he would go on these recruiting trips, and I remember as a kid, we would, every once in a while, my mom would sit us down and she would tell us how we were going to have a special guest for dinner, that night or coming up, and that we needed to be on our best behavior and represent the family well. And my dad would invite someone that he had recently hired that was, leaving. Most likely, a lot of times this was the first time a lot of these folks were leaving home for the first time. They were moving to a new city. And my father took the time to invite them over to our home to have dinner with us. A lot of times before their families would move, or some of these folks were just young kids right out of school, and kind of show them that, when I reflect and I look back on that and think about that, just what an incredible example of being able to welcome somebody into your home, to share a meal with them, and just get to know, the person that you're going to be working with, is just another tremendous lesson that I didn't realize, at the time, just what an unbelievable example that he was setting, for me to follow, in my career later on.
Yeah. Talk about a wonderful way to make people feel comfortable and, in a time of change in their life. And I think you're right, Ryan, that he really did. He set that example of what does a servant leader really look like? And just in thinking about those men and women who are coming to be, part of the organization and welcoming them to both your family and the Detroit Diesel family. That's cool.
I even watched, I remember Roger, one of the internships, we'd have to do an orientation, and it was an orientation to what Detroit Diesel was about and the business was about, but also, had a lot of safety components. You're in a manufacturing environment that's dangerous, and there's a lot of safety protocols and things that you have to follow and be aware of as well. And through that orientation, I had the opportunity one of the summers where Roger actually came in, and he was the one teaching part of the orientation. And I thought, now when I reflect back on it, what an incredible example of leadership to walk in and see, this, he was larger than life personality from a standpoint from a leadership perspective, but to take the time, these were a lot of times in the evening. I mean, this facility ran pretty much 365, every day, around the clock, 24 hours a day. And, he would come in, and for him to take the time and make that a priority was just an incredible lesson. And I'll kind of transition that story into today. One of the things that working at Lincoln Financial Group, being on the distribution and the sales side and representing the business out in the marketplace, something that's very important is making sure that the folks that are essentially delivering on the promise that we make every day, that they recognize the importance of their role and they recognize the importance of our success as a business. And so I actually go in, and some of the folks from my team, we go in and we meet with we're in a claims shop. And so we go in and spend some time with new recruits that are going to be joining to help pay claims, and express that to them, that they make a meaningful impact in the lives of everybody that they touch every day, and what an incredible opportunity that they have, and that they have a choice to look at their job in many different ways. And it's just a really neat, I found it to be just an exceptional opportunity for me to transition out of some of my day-to-day responsibilities, go meet with new people that are joining our organization, share with them what I believe to be a really important message. And I would say that I learned that, from Roger and from, my father and growing up and seeing those mentors in front of me.
Yeah. You think about how often that step gets overlooked in people's careers, and you have those folks who they come in every single day and they do their job, and they really don't necessarily see or feel a real sense of purpose in what they're doing, and thus they just kind of go through the motions. But from a leadership perspective, taking that time to prioritize that, because certainly there's no shortage of other things that you could be doing with your time, but to go and sit with those people and really help them to see and feel the difference that they make in people's lives. And you certainly can see how that impacts the purpose with which they move, how inspired they feel in what it is they're doing, and understanding at a higher level the difference that they really make in people's lives. And I think that piece so oftentimes, it's just taken for granted. So I can certainly see where that would make a difference, Ryan.
So there's a challenge coin that was presented to me that represents a lot of the things that we talked about regarding those non-negotiables, the common purpose. And this challenge coin is something that I have in my pocket. It's something that I carry with me every day, and it's really meant to remember. It says right on it, remember who you are and what you represent. And then on the back of it, it says make a meaningful impact in the lives of others through selfless service. And so, I think that we all have a choice in whatever our profession is, whatever our job is, whatever field that we've chosen to go do in our life, is to, get up every day and I think ask yourself that question, how can I go make a meaningful impact in the lives of others? And so I find that this helps me to remember what my purpose is, and remember that I can make an impact in the lives of others, and that I need to seek out and look and find ways to do that. And so that's just one example. I would say that, but it doesn't have to be something like that, regardless of where you are in the company, where you are in whatever your business is. You may be unemployed right now. It can be just an impact you can make in the life of somebody that you're standing in line with at the grocery store, or, at the airline counter. I just find that it actually is quite a fun, I find it to be extremely rewarding, energizing, and fulfilling just to look for ways that you can put a smile on somebody's face or make an impact in that person's life. And it's woven into pretty much everything that I do and everywhere that I'm at. It's not just a means to drive success from a business perspective. It's really a means of in a way of living life.
Yeah. I remember years ago, and I'm dating myself a little bit with this story, but years ago, there was a company, I think they still exist, called Nightingale Conant, and they had tape series that you could buy from different motivational speakers and things like that. And this is back in the days when the cutting edge of audio technology in your car was a cassette tape. I remember listening to a series done by Ken Blanchard. And one of the things that he said is, every day and everything that you do, you have an opportunity to bring more love or more hate into the world. And I remember reflecting on that and thinking exactly to your point, Ryan, how, all of those little interactions that we have every single day, whether it's, if we're in traffic and letting somebody get in front of us, or, just, smiling at somebody and telling them, hey, I hope you have a great afternoon, or just those simple little things that we can do to bring more love into the world. And it decidedly makes a difference. It makes a difference in their lives, and it makes a difference in ours too.
I think that's the point, is a lot of people think, well, I'm too busy, or I have too much going on, or, I've got deadlines to meet, I've got sales quotas to hit, whatever that it is, but you get tenfold and you accomplish, I believe, those things and then some by just looking at, everyday interactions in whatever it is that you do in a different way. And that's truly, it's truly a choice. I truly believe that. It's choosing to look for ways to do that. It's a way of approaching each and every single day with a different set of purpose. And, I see a lot of very successful. I'm a very driven. I just got my Hogan, just did a Hogan assessment and got my results back. And it's amazing how they do that and how they show you, from those questions, share with you a lot of things about yourself that really are very spot on. But I think I'm very driven, and I know there's a lot of folks, and many of your listeners are very, very driven. And you think in order to achieve success that you've got to, climb all over other people, that if you don't get to the top, if you help others get to the top, then you're not going to get to the top, or, you've got to beat somebody to succeed. And, I've gone through this journey through leadership, through, trying to achieve high success, and everything that I've done is, I've gone through this journey and approach, and I've come to such a sense of peace related to the fact that by truly looking at ways that you can make an impact in other people's lives, that the results come back to you in tenfold in a lot of different ways. And I've achieved some incredible success way beyond what I thought was possible through approaching each day with looking at how you can serve others, how you can serve your team, how I can serve, the folks that give me the opportunity to work with them every single day in the marketplace that I serve. And it's been incredible.
Yeah. And I think that, you're 100% right in looking at it, that it's a choice of how you decide to look at these things and the way in which you approach them. And I love how I love the coin. I love that as that's such a good reminder to have in your pocket, as a reminder to kind of make that choice consciously every day and every moment of the day. What's the story behind the coin? When did you start, carrying that around? How did you come about it? Why did you start carrying it with you?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So one of my mentors that came to me introduced himself and said, "Hey, I heard that you're doing some great things, and I wanted to invited me out for breakfast one morning." He first wrote me a note, and number one is just the power. One of the lessons that I've learned from this person is the power of a handwritten note. Get some good stationery and make it a habit of writing regular notes to people and share your thoughts, because it's so meaningful. That's something that I cherish, the notes in that. So this mentor who is a mentor of mine. Nothing from a formal perspective. It was really just somebody that reached out, gave me the opportunity to spend some time with them. And it shared the story about the coin and about how he has challenged his organization and his business to aspire to these things each and every day, and how that it's worked. He talked about situations with customers where this was brought up, and how he shared what their common purpose and vision and mission was. So that's kind of where it started. And then I have really taken it to adopt it and utilize that within a lot of the things that I do.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's such a great reminder, because it's so easy to get caught in, just the day-to-day stuff, especially when you're trying to really build that habit to make sure that you're embodying the mindset and the mentality that you want to be. It's easy to kind of get swept away in the flood of emails and texts and phone calls and all that kind of stuff. So that's a really cool way. I love the coin.
Just a physical anchoring point on that.
Yeah, right. Especially with so much digital now. I love, and that's the physical structure of the coin, and even just the handwritten note.
Well, and every morning putting it in your pocket.
Yeah.
The conscious act of putting it in your pocket makes you think about it.
Yeah, we might have to get some coins made.
I'm thinking bare minimum we got to put this in the show notes so people can link to it.
Yeah.
So now, Ryan, do you have any idea where the coins came from?
I mean, it was really developed by this individual. I mean, certainly he's just an exceptional leader. Had studied, really the history of the challenge coin. Really, there's a very large, big military history with it. I don't know if you know the whole story, but a lot of it originated back from a World War II squadron. There was a young pilot, an aircraft that was damaged by ground fire and was forced to land behind enemy lines. When he was captured by the German patrol, he was able to escape, and he went to a French outpost on the front lines. They didn't recognize him at first, that he was an American, and the French were going to execute him. But then he showed the French his challenge coin, and one of the French captors recognized the insignia on it as American. And the American challenged his French captors to contact the Americans to identify him. And the result was that instead of him facing the firing squad, they gave him a bottle of wine and set him free. So that's some of the history of the challenge coin, but really this mentor is just an incredible leader, someone that recognized that and really adopted it into running, his part of the organization. And it's a symbol that we use every day to remember who we are and what we represent, and that it challenges us to be at our very best, with others, especially with, in our business, from client encounters to be, fully present in every single moment that we have the opportunity to have with our clients in the marketplace. So also to kind of really hold ourselves to the highest standards each and every single day. So it truly meets that purpose, which is to challenge us to do those things each and every day.
Yeah. And I also love what you said about the handwritten notes. And I think that's a lost art form, but it makes, in the days of text messages and emails and all of that, taking that time to handwrite a note to somebody. And you've actually been kind enough to gift me a couple of books since you and I met, and that's one of the things I always cherish. Every time I get one of those books, is you always handwrite a note inside the cover, and it just it elevates the sense of importance, and it conveys a great message. And I think that is another wonderful leadership tip that people can take. It doesn't really take you that much more time to handwrite a note than it does to type an email. but the impact and level of importance that it conveys is entirely different, and the permanence of it is entirely different.
Yeah, I have a drawer in my office that I put a lot of notes and people, give them to me. And it's just a reminder to myself how important that it is to me. And, just a leadership tip for those that lead other people is, a great gift or a great way to not only thank your team on an accomplishment or, whatever kind of milestone or something that you may want to recognize is get some personalized stationery for them. You can go to, any stationery store or order it online. I think I got mine from an online store, and get personalized stationery for them and give it to them. And, I've done that in the past, and I really think that it helps to instill a great habit for them as well, that you'll see, dividends be paid off because of that. But it all started from just, one, great lessons from mentors that I've had in my life that have done those things and paved the way and showed me those things. And then I recognized the way that they made me feel and the impact that those things had in my life. And I've sort of taken inventory of those things and, just taking inventory of the things that impact you and then trying to do those for others. Again, back to that selfless, more of what you can do for others based off of things that people are doing for you that you really enjoy or that you like.
Yeah, I think, and you mentioned taking kind of stock of what things have really affected you and incorporating that into, your leadership style. One thing that I think is really impressive and probably something that not a lot of people would guess about you was that when you were a kid, you actually had a learning disability. Is that right?
I did, yeah. When I was going through, so I went to a small Catholic grade school, and when we were looking to, going from grade school into middle school, most of the Catholic school systems, you move schools at that point. And I was really struggling in school at that point. And I would say that it was affecting, my self-esteem. It was affecting, my relationships with friends and family. I was just, frustrated. I didn't feel like that, it was an area of failure, if you will, at that point in my life. All the way to the point even to where it impacted, I was getting incredible, migraine headaches. And looking back on it now and talking to my parents about that stage in my life, those headaches were very much brought on by a lot of the feelings, a lot of the stress that I put on myself because of that. So I transitioned to, we've got a wonderful public school system there, and I moved to a middle school, and there was a person that greeted me essentially on the first day. I was not real thrilled about changing school. I didn't like school to begin with, and then I wasn't thrilled about changing schools and going to this whole new environment. So it was very scary for me at the time, as I'm sure it is for a lot of kids at that stage in their life. And there was a person that my mom had called the school, kind of expressed some of these challenges, and I was greeted by a very tall, very large man by the name of Mr. Waters, is the way he was introduced to me. And he invited me into his office. He was a guidance counselor that was there, and said, hey, you don't have to go to class today. Just come on in. We'll, look around, and, you can leave your lunch here in the office. You don't even have to stay if you don't want to. And, when I reflect back on that, I think about just the empathy and the caring, and really taking the time to meet with me and go through that at that stage in my life. It's impacted me. It's impacted me that, it's certainly something I work through and have overcome, but it made an impact in my life for sure, and made an impact of an example of how you can meet people during, challenges or difficulties in their life, seek to understand kind of what's going on and then help guide them through some of that process.
Yeah, it sounds like he did such a great job of, especially as a kid coming into a new school, there's so much anxiety and fear of the unknown and all that. It sounds like he did such a great job of just, from the moment you walked in the door, making you feel comfortable. What was that first day?
Yeah, my mom tells me I stayed the rest of the day, and, really the rest is history. It kind of started me off on a whole new trajectory. I was able to get the support that I needed within the school to, really sort out and get me the proper classes and training and things like that to manage some of the learning disability that I had at that time. And it changed literally my confidence in myself, and I got back to playing sports. The headaches went away, and it was a game changer, and really a lot is owed to that first interaction, and really because of Mr. Waters and because of the impact that he made in my life. I think an important lesson that I kind of took away from all of that is that we have a choice and we have an opportunity to make an impact, and we are and can make an impact in people's lives that we don't even know that we're impacting. This is something that he was just doing his job and probably would have no idea that, 40 years later, 30 some odd years later, that I'm talking about, an interaction with this person and the impact that he made in my life. Probably has no idea. And so I think that's a powerful sort of takeaway for me is the fact that, you can make those impacts in people's lives, and they may never tell you, but if you look at every interaction, you look at every opportunity to where you try and make an impact, or you look for ways to make an impact, you just never know the seeds that you're planting and the things that will happen in the lives of others.
That's exactly right. You said something earlier that it always comes back around. And I think you're 100% right that, we don't always know how it's going to come back around, the difference that we make in people's lives, but it always does come back around in some regard. You think about whether it's something directly that person does to repay you or say thank you, or whether it's and the difference in the way that they move and how that affects somebody else's life. Or 40 years later that you're on a podcast and your name comes up and you're telling the story to thousands of people about the difference that that somebody made. Yeah, so I think that's very cool.
Yeah, I remember it kind of reminds me of the story with John O'Leary, and he talked about and wrote about in his book On Fire, which was about the nurse. I think it was Nurse Roy that was there during the period of time in his life that was really pushing and challenging, John to in part of his recovery. And, for those that don't know that story, so John O'Leary was burned on close to 100% of his body. And he talks about how that has, through all that adversity and the challenges that's completely changed and transformed his life. And, he's decided to live a life on fire. It's a great story. And it just kind of reminds me of that he talks about going back and sharing with Nurse Roy, just the impact that he made in keeping him alive and inspiring him to go day by day. I just think about those, we can be those people in other people's lives. We have such a sense of purpose and an opportunity to make an impact in other people's lives. It's just a choice to look at it that way. And I think a lot of folks walking around and get up every day, that's not what they're thinking about. I just don't believe that they're living their life and they feel like they don't have a purpose. And I think we all have a purpose and all have an opportunity. We just have to make that choice, for our own life.
Yeah, I think, there's we always hear about the 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 most popular radio station in the world, the what is it, IFM, what's in it for me, and so many individuals, they walk around with that very myopic perspective, and everything that they do and every decision they make and every action that they take is, what am I going to gain? What should I do? How's this going to benefit me? And, and there's a ripple effect from that, just as powerful as there is from, thinking about how do I make a difference in the lives of the people around me. It's just a profoundly less impactful difference that it makes. And I think you're right. I think you see that a lot in leaders. There's a self-centeredness with which, they might move, or a narcissistic thought process that they may have. When you see it in people just in everyday life and in the simple things that they do, but it's, to shift it around and really think about, what's the positive ripple that I'm making here? What's the difference in the folks around me? And that I'm making, how am I helping this person to smile or feel better about themselves, or, feel worthy in what it is they're doing, or seeing the purpose in what it is that they're doing. It's a very, very powerful message to send.
Yeah, I think there's lots of examples of that around us. I think you can turn on the TV, you can turn on the radio, you can look everywhere at just that very self-centered, culture that exists out there. And there are a lot of folks that have become very successful, through those ways. There's, some great books that are out there that, one of them that comes to mind is that book, Give and Take, that was written and talks a lot about, givers and then takers, and the success of, the takers versus the givers. And there's just so many examples out there of where that self-centered behavior, and I'll tell you, through my journey of leadership, of, being an individual contributor and the different roles throughout my career, I've struggled at times trying to think about what is the right approach. How do you approach each day? And I guess what I've learned through trying to study life and to study, the ways to be successful at the highest levels, while also being very true to what's most important to me, is to lead the way that I do. And it's been very, very fulfilling. It's been very fulfilling. And, I'm a better leader at work. I'm a better husband to my wife at home. I'm a better father to my daughter. I'm truly more happy versus getting up every day and thinking about how I'm going to get whatever it is that I want for myself, and kind of missing the whole boat at the end of the day. Why achieve the highest success, or, climb the biggest mountains and lose the point of what, why you're there, or where you're going, why you're going there, and who's most important to you. So, that's been through incredible mentors that I've had the opportunity to spend time with and talk about these things, to the examples of the people that, have been in my life, from birth, and, just great examples of leaders from that perspective. But it really makes for a very fulfilling life when you approach each day that way. And so some of these tools that we've talked about today that I've, incorporated in my life have helped me to live that life.
Yeah, I think, there's a great investor actually out of Silicon Valley, Naval Ravikant, who talks about, he says self-esteem is just the reputation you have with yourself. And I think, when it comes to the give and take side of things, he talks about, you always want to do the right thing, because even if nobody else finds out, you'll always know. And that reputation you have with yourself will suffer. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And, like you talked about being happy. And I think so much of that is, just peace of mind of being, like you said, at peace with the decisions that you make and the intentions that you have with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'll know that not doing something, it's completely unrelated, but the late Jim Rohn, a lot of folks know him. He wrote one of the famous the art of exceptional living. That was something my parents gave me. You talked earlier about cassette tapes. I still have the original cassette tape set of the Jim Rohn, The Art of Exceptional Living. And, one of the things he talks about, which just kind of, when you were talking about this, that he talks about tipping, and he talks about, if you were going to tip somebody, and let's say you were going to tip them $1 or, $2 or something, just to use, simple example, is that you'll know the difference between whether or not you gave them that extra, especially if they provided exceptional service for you, that the feeling that you get, by, giving them that tip, that you feel, it gives you a sense of satisfaction. You'll never walk back. That person's never going to go chase you down and say, "Oh, thank you so much for that." Sometimes that happens, but it's interesting what happens to you inside because you know that. And I think the same thing with others. These other things that we've been talking about, that when you lead a life that way, that you feel much more fulfilled inside, regardless of ever getting something back in return, maybe for that selfless act that you gave.
Yeah, and I think you're such a great example and proof of, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Meaning, it doesn't have to just be, giving and serving others and you're sacrificing your own success, for yourself. You've won the Integrity Award at Lincoln, which I'd love to hear a little bit more about. But even beyond that, you've also, you achieved, I think it was 156% of your plan this year for your team. So, I think those two things, you're a great example of how those two things can go together.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, so I work in an industry that, we have, being in kind of the sales and distribution, we get together once a year to go through a lot of, it sets up the strategy for the next year, and there's sort of a rewards component to it to celebrate our past year's success. And at the end of the evening, there's an award for the Integrity Award, and they read through all of these, great bios around what, that means to the organization and how it's a very important, tenet, obviously being Lincoln Financial. It's embedded in, that name and in what Abraham Lincoln stands for. And it was a tremendous honor. It was a tremendous honor to accept that, and it was something that's very, very special to me. I'd never, that was the first national award that I had ever received within a large Fortune, we're a Fortune, 200 company. To be recognized for that was just incredibly special to me.
And well deserved.
And the successes, I appreciate that. And, the success has come. I think that's the thing this year. We received the highest performing regional office in the country. And it really taught me that you can lead the way that I've been doing it, and by really supporting your team, the relationships that you build with them, leading the person, leading by the person and not their performance. Dabble Sweeney talks about, leading their heart versus, their talent, and, really building those relationships with the team and really building things at a personal level with them so they can go out and achieve their absolute best. And everybody's a little different. Everyone has different things that motivate them. There's things that are going on in their life. And so taking the time to truly build relationships with them, to understand how you can help them to be the absolute best that they can be, has truly proven to produce exceptional results. And it's been tremendously rewarding sticking true to what truly is kind of my natural leadership style. And I've tried lots of different things, and to find one that is, true to me and to at the core of who I am, and then to be able to produce that kind of success is been very, very rewarding.
Yeah, and I love what you said about, leading people versus leading performance. Could you talk a little bit more about that, or maybe give us an example of what would somebody who's leading people, something that they would do versus somebody that's more leading performance?
Well, I think that, you've got to be true. Just because you have a really top performer may not be that they're doing all the right things, and you can't necessarily lead to their performance but leading, by the person. And the same may be true for someone that's an underperformer. So somebody that may not be performing at their absolute best is that, really trying to understand, building a relationship with them, getting to know them, getting to understand, what it is that's going on that can change their performance. So it truly is being able to, drive results on maybe the things that the person, just because they're a good performer, may not be that they're exhibiting all the things that you would want them to be doing. They may not be, operating under integrity and with a sense of urgency and, all of the other non-negotiables. They may not be taking ownership and being carrying professionalism with others. And so just because they've got great performance doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing all the right things. So I found too that you build, exceptional trust by doing that. We focus a lot on, there's a pretty basic formula as to how we approach the marketplace and the way that we approach, all the folks that we have the opportunity to serve. I'm part of running a sales and distribution, a part of the business. And so, one of the things is, connecting with each of these folks on a level that, truly enables them to be their best.
So Ryan, I'm curious because my instincts tell me that this is an area where a lot of leaders struggle, and perhaps they struggle for different reasons. Maybe they struggle because they don't know how to build that kind of relationship. Maybe they struggle because they think that they have to solely focus on the performance aspects of what somebody is doing. Or maybe they just lack the confidence to, invest that if I invest the time and energy in building this relationship, that it's, it's going to work out in a beneficial fashion. So how do you go about building that caliber of relationship with people where, you establish a trust, you can pull down their walls, you can have real conversations with them. So if you've got, let's just say, somebody new joining your team, walk us through, what do you do with somebody when they're new to kind of put the right foundation in place?
Well, I think it really starts first with being genuine and authentic. You truly have to approach. It starts with me from the hiring process. When I reach out and I'm hiring, I'm having conversations with people. I want to get to know them. I want them to know a little bit about me. And this doesn't mean that you get into all of their personal details and that you dive into things that people, you don't want to be creepy about this stuff, but it's truly being authentic and genuine, and that you're being genuine and sharing things about yourself and things that are important to you. It's asking them questions. A lot of times I think so, and I know I did this, for many, many years is, I would dive right into, and you think about the difference between leadership versus management, I would dive into all the tactical things. I'd read the resume and I'd ask them all the technical questions. And I've completely taken a different approach to all of that. And the first is to get to know them. I want to understand what their thoughts and beliefs are. I want to understand a little bit about them and, not only what they've accomplished and what their skills are, but a little bit about what they believe and what they think. And so I think it starts with truly in the beginning, right from the interview process or right from the time that you meet people. So whether that be, new customers that we're meeting with, or, we work with consultants on a regular basis. And it's also sharing them with what you're about and what drives you. So one of the things that I have really found to be, rewarding is being able to share some of these fundamental principles about what I stand for and what my team stands for and what our business and our organization stands for. And I believe through that, you create a trust and you create a foundation that you then build upon, from there.
And just standing for something, I think that in and of itself is sadly unique. And that I think a lot of leaders haven't taken the time to really crystallize what are those non-negotiables? What are those, absolute fundamental tenets that, we stand for as an organization? And I don't remember who it was who said that you stand for nothing. You stand for something, or you fall for you fall for anything. I think it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It might have been John Cougar Mellencamp who said that. I don't know.
Okay.
But
it makes life really easy. I mean, it makes it really easy, to be honest, when you just go back to those fundamental things. You can't replace those fundamentals. And when you stand for something, and when you're everything that you do points to certain specific things, it makes it easy to make decisions. It makes it easy to have a conversation about a particular situation. It makes it easy for them to understand what the expectations are that you're going to have upon them. I mean, right off the bat, when you sit down and you share with somebody and you say, listen, we have 4 non-negotiables, and everything that we do, we're going to act with integrity, and we're going to have a sense of urgency. We're going to, take ownership. It may not be your problem. You may have a customer that calls you and it's a department that you're not responsible for, but you do need to take ownership in making sure that that gets handled properly and transitioned, and you seek to understand what's going on. They brought that to you, and you have to take ownership of that. And so when you share those things, it makes it really easy. Another fundamental thing that we talk about in the marketplace is, know, like, and trust. That takes care of literally the whole sales process for us. And that's another part that we sort of lay out is, people need to know who you are and know what you do and what you represent. So you have to be out in the marketplace, and people need to know you. They're not going to, your solutions aren't going to sell themselves if people don't know who you are and what you sell. People want to do business with people that they like. So you have to find a way of creating some sort of rapport. That doesn't mean that you're going to be best friends. It doesn't mean that you're going to go to that person's, wedding or their kid's wedding, but you definitely have to find a way for you to have some likability. People aren't going to do business with you if they don't like you. And then ultimately, they may know you, they may like you, but they ultimately have to trust that you're going to be able to deliver. You're going to have to be able to deliver whatever that solution is that you've been talking about. And the one thing that I found with that is not only they trust you, but they have to trust the organization that you represent. And, a lot of times I know folks in kind of sales types of roles and distribution types of roles is that, if something doesn't go right, that's the home office's fault, or that's, we get into those. Well, no, you're the home office. You're part of the broad organization, and they ultimately can't just trust you. They have to trust the entire organization. And literally the entire sales process in a lot of ways is driven off of those 3 things. When I have meetings with my team and we start talking about what's going on in the marketplace, it really centers around, do all the folks that need to know you, do they like you? And have you found a way to create some sort of relationship with them to where they want to do business with you? And then third, do they trust that you can deliver whatever solutions you've talked about? And do they trust the organization can do that for them? And it makes it pretty simple.
Yeah, I love the simplicity of the non-negotiables that comes with that. I think a lot of times so many people avoid that kind of thinking of just making a stand for something and having non-negotiables just, because they're trying to keep everybody happy. And if there's somebody that doesn't buy into one or the other, they're trying to play every scenario, as it comes. But I love the language of the non-negotiables because, like you said, it makes things so much simpler. And I think it's kind of because it almost removes so many decisions that you would have to make otherwise, that the decision's kind of already made once it comes up. When you're kind of having these non-negotiables, you've made the decision 6 months ago or whenever you decided to join this team and embrace these non-negotiables. When something pops up, you've already made the decision that you're going to take ownership for it. So the decision of what to do is not one of you're weighing the pros and cons or anything. You've already made the decision. And I think you're right. That does make it makes life so much simpler when you remove so many of the little decisions that you would have to make otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, with that foundation, I have not found, you kind of mentioned where people are trying to pick and choose and they're trying to please people. I mean, in the time that we've been really utilizing this as a foundation for running the business, and that I've incorporated within everything that I'm responsible for, I find it to be the response is the opposite, where people are truly looking for and starving for something to stand for, and that they know what it is that's expected of them, and that they feel good about the fact that they have guiding principles to go out and act upon, and to take to their customers, to take to the marketplace. It alleviates a lot of guesswork as to what they should be doing. It truly drives everything that you do. That's it's very purposeful as to that this is what we're driven by, because it truly does drive every aspect of everything that we do every day.
Yeah, and I think you're right. People are starving for that, and I think when it comes to non-negotiables, I think people might have hesitated to embrace those or implement those as a leader, in order to keep people happy. But I think you're right. Most of that's in your head. That's really what people want. And that's just kind of a myth that they have in their head of drawing the line in the sand. They feel like they're cutting people out when in reality, they're really becoming a magnet to attract the people they want.
People opt in. And if you've got somebody who is prone to move without integrity, who, likes to do the dirty deals and, and the backhanded things, as soon as they see that you've put a stake in the ground and said, this is what we stand for, they can look at that and make the decision. Well, do I stand for that? Or have I never really thought about what I stand for? Or am I something contrary to that? In which case you attract the people that you want to attract, and you repel the ones that you don't want on the team anyway.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And I think there's been some exceptional leaders that you see, today on the biggest stages that are truly, they have a lot of these methods, and they drive their teams. I mean, just look at sporting teams, for example. I mean, just the success that, a Dabo Sweeney has had at Clemson, a lot of these same fundamental. I mean, he stands for something. His team and his players know that, and he's creating, men that are going to go off, into the world. This football is just one part of their life. And, you look at a Matt Rule that just joined the Carolina Panthers, from Baylor. Again, someone that stands for, he talks a lot about, this is something we talk a lot about, as a group and a team is, how you do anything is how you do everything. And it kind of goes back to those things. When you stand for something, it dictates and drives how you do everything. But it makes it simple. That's the thing that I've found that I struggled. I think that people, when they're going through their careers and they're having ups and downs in their careers and different points of, I had some, big struggles in parts of my, my career and in different parts of, my professional life where I struggled with what to do and I struggled with how to approach things. And I found I have such a sense of clarity knowing these fundamental principles that truly help make the decisions very simple. It's amazing how that impacts, every day, every decision, what you do when you have that.
I think there's such wisdom right there, and I think there's value for each of us as human beings to really sit back and ponder, what really are our non-negotiables? What is it that we stand for as human beings, and what are those things that we're just not willing to compromise on? And, it allows us to move through life with a level of clarity and purpose that, and Ryan, you said it earlier, people desperately want, but so many people struggle to find.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Ryan, I'm curious, you've done a wonderful job as a leader. You've obviously had tremendous impact in your career, both in terms of what you've accomplished and the difference that you've made and scores of lives around you, of all those men and women who are fortunate enough to call you their leader. So, knowing what you know now, if you could go back and give advice to a 20-year-old Ryan Hawley who is just starting out his career, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
I think one would be to, really lean into the things that are important to you and that are true. Don't search for things that you believe are going to make you successful, but then sort of lose the whole point, if you will. There were stages of my life where I put, work and I put my success, ahead of a lot of other things. And, I've realized through this journey, first and foremost, that, what you do in your career and what you do, for work, is really not letting that truly define who you are. I'm a husband and a father first. And I am, an exceptional person in the business that I do, but that doesn't define me. So I'd first, say that to my younger self, because I definitely spent a lot of time putting stake into that. Secondly is really believing in yourself. There were times where, I failed at things that I did, and I truly looked at them with probably more of a fixed, mindset versus a true open and a growth mindset of looking at my failures and looking at the things that I didn't do as tremendous opportunities to learn from. And then the last is, I think seeing these fundamental, really getting these guiding principles, these fundamental things that you stand for, and breaking them down into a way that you can define, very easily, whether, it's adopting things from others. I mean, a lot of this stuff, I didn't come up with this stuff on my own, but I've been a student of, I read lots of books and consume lots of information around all these concepts that we've talked about today, whether it be on podcasts, whether it be in books, whether it be, through all these different apps today that you can consume material in a pretty quick fashion. And, I think finding what resonates with you and what you stand for, and then defining that, and then living by it. in being open to changing it along the way as well. Probably not some of the fundamentals, but if it's not working for you, is being willing to continue to grow and learn and change along the journey, and to enjoy the journey. This is truly the moments, the big moments. The night that I was presented with the Integrity Award. Wow, is that a great feeling to stand there on stage and accept that and be recognized. But that's one small fleeting moment. There are so many moments each and every day that we get up, and that's what it's really all about. It's about those moments in between the big moments, and not to live just for the big celebrations or the big goals that you accomplish, but it's really living each and every day and enjoying that journey. So I would tell my younger self, I guess, a lot of things, because I've learned a lot along the way.
Well, that's the measure of a life well lived, my friend. So, well, Ryan, thank you so much for sharing some time and most importantly, sharing your wisdom with us today. I think that there are tremendous golden nuggets in what you have built and how you have built it. So I'm quite certain that all of the listeners will find a lot of value in the conversation. So Ryan, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you guys today. It's been fun.
It has been fun. Thanks, Ryan. Hey guys, one more thing before you take off. This is Motivational Intelligence Insider. It's just a very short, exclusive email every Monday that comes from Dave, John, and the guests on this show. This is the only place they share their very, very best stuff, and it's delivered right to your inbox every single Monday. This could include exclusive tips for upping your game, articles they're reading, videos they're watching, stories from the road, and on and on. It's the best way to kick off your week, and this content comes directly from Dave, John, and the guests, and is only available to subscribers of Motivational Intelligence Insider. So if you want these guys and gals to email you their best stuff, go to 2logical.com/insider. That's the number 2logical.com/insider, and drop in your email. And if you do, I hope you enjoy.
The Motivational Intelligence Podcast is produced by the team at 2Logical. 2Logical is an international corporate training firm and the world's leading expert in motivational intelligence, which is the ability to understand, manage, and change the motives people have. 2Logical offers over 30 different keynotes, workshops, and full training courses to small, medium, and large Fortune 500 companies in 53 countries, a lot of which you're probably familiar with: Pfizer, Bank of America, GE, Constellation Brands, P&G, and more. All solutions are completely customized, and the feedback from these sessions will blow your mind. If you have any training or speaking needs or just want to say hey, head over to 2logical.com.